For those that have joined us, no worries, this will be recorded and the deck will be distributed after this webinar. So bear with that aspect of it, but we're going to kick this off and go ahead and get started. So hello, good day to everyone that is logged in. We welcome you to today's webinar, and this specifically unlocking global trade with blockchain-powered certificates of origin. Again, my name is Travis Armit. I'll be your host. A quick blip about me: I've been with Morpheus for a little over 2 years. I'm a UN supply chain expert and work with all of our projects that are currently ongoing. And so we are thrilled to have all of you here with us as people continue to trickle in, whether you're tuning in to us from the comforts of your office, the comforts of your home office, wherever you are catching us from halfway across the world. You've taken the step towards exploring how technology is reshaping the future of global trade. And we couldn't be more excited to have you on this journey with us here today. But to start, I want to get your minds thinking. So let me ask you a question that could help transform kind of your perspective as we jump into this webinar. My questions are, why was it that you chose to spend an hour of your life with us today? What challenge is in your business or your organization that brought you here? Imagine your current supply chain, your global trade processes, or your technology hurdles that you're currently facing. Are you stuck in the cycle of patchwork solutions, endlessly facing or fixing macro formulas in Excel sheets? I've been there. It is not a fun place to be, I assure you. Or spending on temporary fixes that never seem to solve the core issues. What if today was the turning point where you discovered a smarter, more permanent solution to solve those challenges? A reality that relieves your supply chain of the burden of managing multiple platforms, Excel documents, and manual searches, manual processes. I invite you to settle in because in the next hour, we're going to help you to rethink the possibilities of what that have helped unlock strategies for our customers, proven strategies, and that have helped elevate their operations to a next level. So today we're diving into one of the most critical issues in the global commerce, and that's supply chain inefficiency. Did you know that solving this problem could add an astounding $2 trillion with a T to the global economy? And that's just not a number for us. We view that as a world of opportunities waiting to be unlocked. But we are just not here to talk about problems. We're here to explore solutions, spotlight success stories, and inspire new ways to think about trade and technology. Together with my two incredible panelists, the co-founders of Morpheus.Network, Dan Weinberg and Noam Eppel, we'll be unpacking the real-world impact of blockchain-powered innovations, like the groundbreaking work happening in Mongolia that drives efficiency, transparency, trust across the global supply chain sphere, as well as other projects. So this isn't just a webinar. We want to be a conversation starter, but also just a conversation, a collaboration, and hopefully a spark that ignites new ideas for you and your organization. So please grab your coffee, grab your drink of choice, and get ready for a lively discussion that promises to inspire, educate, and empower. As I know, Noam and Dan, that's how they operate. I've spent many times with them, and that's how they are wired. Some housekeeping issues. As you can see, we're dealing with some tech issues. But if there are questions that come to your mind that get surfaced throughout this webinar, please use my email, like what's pinned in the chat right there. You can send your questions to me at travis@morpheus.network, and we'll address those at the end. But also at the end, the very last slide, you'll see an email that you can reach out to us, and someone from our team will begin that conversation with you. And if you want to get a head start and jot it down and write it down, it's hello, HELLO, at Morpheus.network. Again, write that down because that will be your on-ramp into the next conversation with us. So if you have questions, please let me know, and we will address them at the end. But as we get into this, I would love to have our co-founders, Noam and Dan, briefly share their backgrounds and really what's exciting them most about using technology to tackle the global trade challenges. Dan, I will toss it over to you.
All right. Awesome, Travis. Fantastic introduction. Thank you so much. One thing I wanted to mention to the people sending questions to Travis's email, or wherever they're sending them, we're going to take at least 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the presentation to go through those questions and hopefully get through them all as well. So we're excited for those questions as well. My name is Dan Weinberger, as Travis had mentioned. I'm also a UN supply chain expert. I also teach a masterclass on paperless trade for the UN. And I'm also one of the two co-founders and CEO of Morpheus.Network. Excited to be here, of course. What makes me the most excited? I guess you could say that opportunity, Travis, that you mentioned, that $2 trillion opportunity for companies. But besides that, we're going to get into it at the sustainability angle as well, that the number one ruiner of the environment is the supply chain of businesses right now. So we're going to talk about that. We're talking about what companies are going to do to improve that as well. Before I get too deep into it, I throw it over to my esteemed fellow co-founder, Mr. Noam Eppel.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much, Dan and Travis. Yeah, great intro. Really appreciate that. In terms of my background, I guess my journey really started in 1996. I was an early adopter of the web and a very early web designer and developer, going back to basic HTML 1.0. And I've continued that journey in the web development space, very active in technology and information security. Jumping ahead more recently, in addition to Morpheus.Network, very active in education as well as Dan and Travis. I'm a professor at George Brown College in Toronto, teaching blockchain technologies, as well as McMaster University in Hamilton.
Thank you, Dan and Noam. All right. Like we had mentioned, that $2 trillion worldwide problem. This first question is for you, Dan. Why do institutions like the World Bank consider supply chain inefficiencies such a critical issue?
Yeah, I want to define that $2 trillion. People hear that number, they're like, where does that come from? Such a massive number. And what are these inefficiencies causing trillions, multiple trillions of dollars of loss for these companies, right? So we're going to talk about supply chain and why there's so many problems in supply chains. To give you, some stats around supply chains that people just don't realize, the average supply chain is about 40 points of handling. 40 points of handling. We're talking about shipping companies, customs brokers, freight forwarders, the actual port authorities themselves, all the way up and down the line. We have different, interactions with the supply chain. What's even more complicated about that, we even have banks involved, transfers involved, compliances involved, all the way up and down the line as well. So absolutely massive amount of manual processes involved for all these different compliances and all those touch points. And we're just talking about one supply chain for one company, let alone a complex supply chain that's involving dozens and dozens of companies that have stakeholders up and down the entire way as well. And everything has to be synchronized all the way down. I'll give you an example. One company we deal with is a port operator. They have 43 IT systems within one company. That's 43 data silos that they have to manually enter into in order to communicate between these different silos as well. Absolutely crazy how many manual processes they have. And that's only within their one company, let alone all those millions of companies interacting with them, coming to the ports and importing and the documentation and the clearances. Absolutely crazy. Beyond that, when you're actually trying to find out what's going on in your supply chain, there's zero visibility. You want to know where your documents are. Have they been filed? Have they been cleared? Where's my Environmental Protection Agency form? Did they receive it at the customs brokerage? Did they actually clear the shipment itself? Nobody knows these things. And you're calling people all the way down the line or sending emails, manually processing every single one of these steps in order to figure out what's going on. On top of it, banks are very hard to work with as well. You can send off a wire transfer, but you don't know if it's been received on the other end. And that might, be the hinging point on shipping your products off, which is going to make your business successful or fail. So you have this, huge dichotomy of what can happen to you based on supply chain, based on these manual processes, and based on these legacy systems that we're still relying on or make these things happen. On top of it, many places, not Mongolian anymore, but many places are still using nothing but paper-based documents. Even emailing around electronic documents doesn't necessarily mean that people are viewing the original document itself. Again, we're running these manual processes, and even email, even attachments, all that takes time as well. So adding all up together, you're getting a whole big ball of inefficiency, which leads to $2 trillion of loss for companies. And that's why the World Bank has stated this as the number one inefficiency to solve to stimulate economic growth.
And if I can jump in and add one more thing, that stat on the screen that you see is absolutely incredible. Increase worldwide GDP by 2 trillion US. There's another stat that I think we think about a lot, and it's according to the US EPA. And they say that organizations' inefficient supply chains often account for more than 90% of their greenhouse gas emissions. And that's absolutely remarkable. And so, we truly believe supply chain inefficiency is a massive problem, but an opportunity as well. And it's also why we often say, if you fix supply chain, you fix the world.
Well said, both of you. So we've heard the problem. We're going to continue to build on that problem. So global impacts, the bigger picture. Noam had just mentioned the greenhouse gases. Dan, this question, I'm going to direct it back to you. Supply chains have obviously some significant environmental impacts. How do these inefficiencies contribute to the emissions? And what's a better environmental story here? What is the broader environmental story?
Yeah, great question. And really, when we're concentrating on that $2 trillion and that's a flashy number, people like hearing that the dollar amounts, but the end result of all these inefficiencies, not only the monetary loss, we're destroying the planet at the exact same time. As this is an EPA stat, Environmental Protection Agency of the United States, 90% of businesses' greenhouse gases are in their supply chain specifically. If it's in their supply chain, that means there's so much more to make efficient. We mentioned all those inefficiencies in the supply chain. So when companies are working on, reducing their, emissions with changing the glass on their windows or even moving over to electric vehicles, that does help. But there's so much more that has to be fixed in the supply chain. To give you an example, if we're thinking back to COVID, for example, when we had that Long Beach port issue, I remember seeing thousands of boats backed up. Boats that are because of no people avoiding congestion at that port and unloading all the containers on final delivery trucks themselves. We had this huge backup, and what happened was people didn't get their products. Companies lost all that money. That $2 trillion was added up like crazy through that entire process. And on top of that, we're destroying the environment all in one fell swoop. So making the supply chain more efficient has so many positive benefits for the entire world. It's really something. And if you think about something like a simple ISF clearance, right? An important security filing. So if you're a company importing into another country, you have to file this ISF form. If you don't file this ISF form, that container that you ship from the other side of the freaking planet gets to port, gets stopped, and gets sent back to the country you purchased it from. Not only do you lose your products, not only do you get fined $5,000 to $10,000, but the entire time you're emitting CO2 that's really ruining the environment from the beginning of that entire supply chain, or you have your product in hand. So you got to think that all that coordination involved, all that data being transferred from stakeholder to stakeholder, all those IT systems, we have to coordinate together. If they're fully data siloed, and you have one mistake or one filing that's missed, the entire supply chain is ruined. All the emissions are in the environment still, and we've really not done anything positive for the business itself. They've lost all that money as well. So a couple big things that we're focusing on as well, things like local procurement. Nearshoring. A big topic nowadays is tariffs, and the United States discussing potentially raising tariffs on importing goods from other countries. Automatically, it's going to be more expensive to import from other countries. You'd have to look locally to purchase it within the country. So I can see that being an environmental benefit right there. Will it be more expensive to purchase locally instead of purchasing, let's say, from China or taking advantage of cheaper labor laws, or cheaper labor itself? Then yes, it would be more expensive. But at the end of the day, we are saving the environment. We're not buying things from our other side of the planet. Same thing with things like oil. When you're purchasing oil from Saudi Arabia, and shipping it from Saudi Arabia, that's going to have a huge environmental cost. You're not thinking of if you're purchasing it right in the United States. And
you were cutting out. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're good to go now.
Clear on my end. Okay, awesome. I was just stating purchasing locally just makes such a massive difference. You can imagine oil being shipped from around the planet. I was saying from Saudi Arabia, which is, a lot of oil per Saudi Arabia, of course. But aren't we making a huge mistake not purchasing it locally if we have, let's say, oil in the oil sands in Canada or oil being drilled in the United States, as opposed to purchasing on the other side of the planet and burning a ton of CO2 in order to bring it into the United States and in Canada. So local procurement, nearshoring, definitely going to be helping a lot of these issues. But again, it's all about that data and making sure we're using the data properly in those inefficiencies, which led to that $2 trillion problem, but also leads to a huge increase in CO2 emissions as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on to there is if you don't know where your shipment is, your trucks are, or there's a delay, those trucks are running, waiting to pick up, waiting for something to clear through customs, something to clear through the ports, the airports, manufacturing facilities. Where if you don't have visibility into that, your trucks are just sitting there burning gas, burning their drive time, their hours. And so that you got to start thinking that way of how this all is the bigger picture and is adding to the bottom line here. All right, we're going to shift over to the Mongolia project. And so the challenge here with the Mongolia project really came to us from the Asian Development Bank. And so with the partnership that we worked with Mongolia was the Mongolia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You'll hear us say MNCCI, as well as the Mongolian Customs General Administration. Those were the folks that we had such great conversations and partnerships with to build this project out. And so, Noam, I want to toss this question over to you because I worked very closely with you in this project. With Mongolia's current COO, so Certificate of Origin processes, it was highlighted that there was inefficiency in their global trade system. What lessons do you think that we can draw from these challenges, and why is modernization so vital?
Thank you, Travis. Yeah, you spoke about a few things there, the inefficiencies of COOs, Mongolia, the sandbox, modernization, and lessons. I hope I'll touch upon all of those. Yeah, in terms of the issue, overall with supply chain, it's always fascinating to me how much of supply chain is still run today on manual processes. It's unbelievable how much of enterprises still run supply chains on Excel documents or messages through WhatsApp. It's a highly, highly inefficient industry. And, those inefficiencies have, as we've spoken about, it has an impact on global trade and the economy and climate change and carbon emissions. And it's also, these challenges impact the end consumer, the end user walking to their grocery store, see that products are more expensive or they're not available. So it's a problem that really does impact every single individual and consumer. In terms of, COOs, that's true with COOs as well, Certificate of Origins. When there's any kind of delay with COOs, it stops shipments, it delays shipments, it increases the cost of goods. So we were very excited to tackle this problem. In terms of lessons, we'll dive into the tech shortly, but in terms of lessons when conducting a big project like this, the first thing I'll mention is with a lot of these projects, when we have the ability to use exciting technology such as DLTs or blockchains, sometimes I think some companies focus too much on the tech. Actually, they're excited to use blockchain, but for us, we always start with the end user, and that's really my first kind of lesson. Don't focus on the tech, focus on the users and how our solution can benefit them. So that's really where we started, and that's really my first lesson. The second lesson is that with any new system, there's going to be some change resistance, right? People may need to change their processes. They may need to throw out their existing systems. They may need to be retrained. Having some resistance to change is natural, and you see that with any kind of solution. And so, our second lesson is to make it extremely, extremely easy to adopt. And that speaks to the user interface. It should be very easy to use, very easy to be trained on. And importantly, it shouldn't impact their existing processes. And the other thing that helps with countering resistance to change really is ensuring that we provide low time to value. And what we mean is that we built and rolled out the solution extremely quickly. If it would have taken us years and years to release the solution, we would have missed that window of opportunity. So with any project we work on, we really focus on low time to value. In terms of modernization, I think we all understand how important it is to monetize and digitize existing systems. What's nice about supply chain and working with MNCCI in Mongolia is that there seems to be this huge hunger, this huge appetite to modernize systems. Speak to any supply chain manager and they'll tell you they're so busy, they're overworked, and they're so excited to talk to us and explore potential solutions. And I'll just mention the ADB for those who don't know. Travis spoke about how it's the Asian Development Bank, and they're a newer bank, new-ish, started in 1966, maybe not so new. But what I think we love about the Digital Innovation Sandbox is that it was hyper-focused on working with real-world clients and not dealing with some of the challenges when you have too many stakeholders. So we had a very focused task, and we were able to execute really well on it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for introducing kind of the challenge and really the opportunity that was made through that Asian Development Bank Sandbox Challenge that we jumped right into. I'm going to shift over to, again, I'm going to direct this at Dan, but the global shift towards digital certificates of origin, COOs, in the future of trade is really paperless. We've heard that across the board globally. So Dan, when we're talking digital COOs becoming essential for competitive trade, what do you think is driving this shift, and what are the biggest hurdles for fully paperless global trade? Noam hit on it a little bit with the resistance to adopt, but I'm going to pick your brain on this.
Awesome, great question, and I'm excited about obviously the solution we have with Mongolia, and also the other solutions that we're building in parallel that also move towards digitalizing companies, full digitalization across the board. And what we're seeing, though, I know you mentioned, the digital age coming, in Mongolia, but truth remains that 70% of companies are still copying and pasting out of Excel or a similar like program in order to create their shipping documents. 70%. On top of that, we're having a bunch of human error. About 5% of those companies have copy-paste errors, which actually ruin an entire supply chain shipment, ruin a compliance, ruin a filing, whatever's necessary to get it done. They're going to make mistakes, part of that 70%. When they're creating these documents manually, on average, it takes 15 minutes for a single document. One shipment could have 4 up to 20 different documents involved. If you're taking 15 minutes for each one, you can imagine how much time that single person is copying and pasting, hopefully not to make any mistakes as well. So actually 5% is not too bad. And we talked about, those different documents that have to be filed. Obviously, with Mongolia, the COO, absolutely amazing solution. We went from some paper-based documents where they had to go in person to get it to, if they do want to export, they're just logging into a platform, Morpheus, and setting up all their documentation right in that digital system itself. We mentioned also that lack of visibility usually that contributed to that $2 trillion problem. Now we have visibility of those COOs. We know who's hopped in. We know the entire history of that company who's set up other COOs in the past and done other exportation out of Mongolia. They know the history of that company as well. You can see all these advantages of having something digital, connecting all that data together through a portal. And on top of it, the actual regulators, MNCCI, the Chamber of Commerce in Mongolia, all they do is log into their portal themselves. They see all these companies registering, setting up their COOs. Everything just comes flying in with a simple dashboard. Really simplifies their life as well. And zero chance it's their fault that a document wasn't supplied or whatever it was, because it's built into the system itself. On top of it, we have a lot of forgeries, that take place nowadays. If you're using a system that's actually built in, people can reference that system. We're going to eliminate a lot of those COO forgeries. Where now it's about a $20 billion a year business, which is for criminals, I should say, as well. And again, nothing's in real time. We have paper-based. You don't know when things have been filed, when the papers were picked up versus when something has to be shipped off. Everything's built into the digital system. You can synchronize everything together. You have that visibility, you have that history. And of course, it's just a lot faster for companies with less human error involved and actually knowing what's going on in the supply chain at the same time. It's nothing but win, 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 win all the way down. And really, this is just the first step. We're talking about that one COO digital system with Mongolia. If we're connecting it to all the other systems that Mongolia is going to be having to put together, whether it's customs brokerage systems, even connecting to things like insurance, connecting it to their trade partners like in China and other countries as well. Next thing you know, they're going to have a completely efficient supply chain for their exporters, and then connect it to the imports coming into the country as well. And not just Mongolia. Extrapolate that to the entire world and every single country, all the interactions happening together. We're going to actually talk about some other solutions that are being put in place, allowing companies to connect to each other through these digital systems that we're building. But man, just the COO in Mongolia is such a huge step. And we've had a lot of interest through the ADB and from other countries noticing what we're doing with Mongolia, but digitalizing their COO system and other potential documents as well.
Very good. Yes, I agree. Moving to, so you mentioned the paper-based side of things. What you see on the screen right now, that is the left side. So it's carbon-based paper, very manual. But on the left side, you'll see is what the digital aspect of that, or the digital form of that document looks like. And so one of the big things is you see the validation as well. So it's hashed to the blockchain. It's one of the questions we got was, well, what if there's another version or an updated version, or what if some changes had to be made? We built that in, we listened to the customer, we built that into the system, into the platform. So if there's a version 3, 5, 6, whatever that looks like, all of that is backed up. They can access every single one of those, but the newest, the most updated is what they see, what the customer has, so that there is no confusion. That is the aspect of the cool part of this platform. And so, Noam, do you have anything to add to this slide?
Hi, to the slide specifically, no, I think you covered it extremely well. I would just mention that what you see on the right, like we built everything to MNCC's eyes exact specification. And so all the fields and all the information was set up exactly the way they requested. Yeah, I'll just mention that.
My quick comment on that actually is, if you compare the two documents, obviously, we have a COO on one side, we have a COO on the other side. How much prettier is our COO? Honestly, it's a pretty document, regardless of the fact that we're actually pulling the data in together to the digital system. It looks way better to them. People just like to work with nice looking documents.
And what you can't see on here, because we got to protect the customer, but what you can't see on the right side is there's actually a map below the bottom of the consignee that shows them the exact path of their shipment. And so the map is formed in there, so the customer, the shipper, everyone can see where their freight is. All right, going on to the challenges of paper-based. Dan, you mentioned a lot of these kind of already, but could you expand on how the manual processes impact security, efficiency, and really that trust in the supply chain? Because we know that specifically with Mongolia, one of the current concerns was fraud. And so we addressed that, we fixed that. So I wanted to allow you to have some time here to expand on that.
Yeah, most definitely. Up and down the supply chain, the issue with supply chain, if it wasn't valuable, if it wasn't actual products involved and actual money involved, then there'd be less opportunity for fraud, less reason for fraud. But because we're talking about such high value goods, this is literally the value of global trade. Any product company is dealing with, they're shipping it around the world. So very important that the values are taken into mind when they're putting these documents in place, because there is a huge market on making it so those products, which are actually, let's say, made in China, to say that they're made in Switzerland. So having these digital systems actually prove where things come from, to have the value behind those products, so you actually feel trust, not only as a company that you're actually selling good product and you want to take care of your clients, but as a consumer as well, as a consumer. So having paper-based documents right from the start is fraught with issues, allowing companies to step in and do nefarious, sort of actions to make it seem like a product's been delivered at the right time, or it has, was delivered on time as opposed to, past the time it's supposed to be delivered. If it's food product as well, We have paper-based document. We can fake that the food was organic itself. So we need these systems in place to actually have verifiable processes, and having everything digitalized and connected, where you connect the data of whoever the user is, their past interactions with the system itself, absolutely massive. And we have none of that when it comes to paper-based documents, right? Right now you have proof of deliveries that someone kind of signs and puts a number on it, and then you don't even know if it actually was delivered that time because you don't have any proof. You only have that paper that was signed on. If someone changes that signature, changes that time, that changes the entire supply chain itself. So we're learning this up and down the line when it comes to supply chain. Obviously, we had a lot of issues with food and beverage, and that's why food certification in Canada, CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, came in and said, you can't just say you have your food inspection, your food certificates on file. You can't say you have an email attachment somewhere buried. You have to have everything up in front, right there for the actual regulators to see those certificates, so you know that the foods could be sold on the shelves themselves. So again, that's great for the consumer, great for the regulators, and great for the actual companies selling. So having paper-based stuff eliminates all that, sort of like efficiency when it comes to seeing all that data put together. So let's get rid of paper-based processes. Aside from the fact that paper itself is actually trees, we're actually ruining the environment to create these papers to be less efficient in the supply chain. So let's get rid of these paper-based documents, hop on digital systems, have a company, maybe like a Morpheus.Network, build you a specific portal that works for your company specifically. I know Noam had mentioned that for ADB and MNCCI, that we built that exact platform to their exact specifications, exactly what they wanted. We can do that for your company. We can do that for your country. I'll talk a little bit later how we're doing that for a continent as well, and their regulations. But once again, off of paper, let's get on the digital-based systems, eliminate human error, and move on to the future here, guys. Why is supply chain so far behind? It bothers me on a day-to-day, so I'm going to keep on working on it.
Yeah, and really, one of the main benefits of this is it's the entire chain of custody throughout the entire supply chain. It's tracked, it's backed up on the blockchain, and really you're getting to see, all sides are being able to see that transparency, because it's no longer having to just trust word of mouth. Like you get to actually see it and track it through the entire process. So every step of that supply chain, every point of contact, touch point, that is backed up with this type of system, the platform.
Yep, a verifiable audit trail. I know that we like to call it a digital footprint. And what I love about the digital footprint is that it's not just one supply chain. Like, oh, let's look at the digital footprint of that supply chain. You have a digital footprint of all the interactors in the supply chain, connected to other former supply chains as well. We can tie in all this digital data together, so you have trust in your supply chain, trust in the history of everyone that's working in your supply chain, and that up-to-date, real-time visibility and information. So super exciting what we're doing with digital footprints and data in general.
Agree. So moving on to the challenge. So the perfect fit for certificates of origin, blockchain, the solution, secure and efficient trade. Noam, I'm going to ask you, blockchain is often seen as a game changer for those of us that are in it and really shouting from the mountaintops. What makes it uniquely suited for addressing the inefficiency, say in a certificate of origin type of management?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll briefly walk you through the process or transition from paper-based over to COO, and then how we decided to incorporate blockchain. When we started to work with MNCCI, the first step we took is a needs analysis. We really wanted to understand their existing processes and systems well, so that before we started writing any code or doing any work, we absolutely had a deep understanding of the problem. So that was our first step. Number two, we focused on that user. How can we really benefit MNCCI, importers, exporters? What value can we really provide them? And how can we provide that value as quickly as possible? We had to look into international compliance standards with regards to COOs to make sure that our work, our format was consistent and in compliance with global standards. And we also wanted to ensure that whatever we built was compatible with the existing MNCCI systems. We wanted to ensure that they can still make use of all the IT systems they had in place. We didn't want them to rip out and replace any of their existing systems. So we wanted to ensure we had that compatibility. In terms of, moving towards blockchain, the first question there is like, which chains should we use? With blockchain, it's quite amazing that there is an abundance of choice, each with their strengths and weaknesses. One of our philosophies as a company is to be as blockchain agnostic as possible. We don't want to be married or tied to any single chain. And one of the reasons is because this industry moves so quickly. We don't know what the landscape is going to look like in 6 months, 12 months. So our platform is built to be blockchain agnostic, which means we can incorporate the best blockchain for specific clients. For this specific project, we wanted to remain within the Ethereum ecosystem. So we were looking for EVM compatible chain, and we selected Polygon. Polygon is fast, very low gas fees, and very robust and solid and secure. Another one I'd mention that we were evaluating is LACChain, LACChain, LACChain. It's not a very popular blockchain solution. However, the ADB does a lot of work with it. So we carefully evaluated that as well, but then decided to go with Polygon. Part of the project, using blockchains, we needed to use smart contracts so that we can securely write the data we need to write onto Polygon. We go through security audits to make sure that any code we produce is not just robust and error-free, but also very, very secure. With regards to security, I'll also mention that, one important requirement of this project is that we didn't want to write any sensitive data on chain. Whatever you write on chain is immutable. It's going to be there forever. So we ensured that no sensitive data, no addresses, no personal names, no company names, no phone numbers, no pricing, none of that was written on chain in a format that is public. So we encrypted data, we hashed data to ensure that companies get all the benefits of immutable blockchains without having to compromise security. I'll also mention IPFS. So we use IPFS for document storage. We've been using IPFS for a number of different solutions, and we're big fans, we're advocates. It's a great way to store documents securely on chain as well. And then, the last kind of big piece of this project was a portal, a user interface, so that exporters, importers, MNCCI can go onto the portal and use it and search COOs and ensure that the COOs have not been tampered with. Some other quick benefits of blockchain I'll mention, and why it's especially good for supply chain. One thing is how easy it is to adopt. As I mentioned, there's an abundance of choice. We focus a lot on user interface, usability, UI, UX to ensure that these things are very, very easy to adopt. And what's nice about the solution is that it can be expanded to any kind of document. This one was for COOs, but we can expand it for health records or invoices or BOLs. And that's something that MNCCI really appreciated, just how expandable this system is for them.
Yeah, and back to the digital COO that we had on the screen, even below that, which you were able to see, actually has the packaging list, has all of that information in there, so that it is open, is visible, and they can see it. Thank you, Noam. Noam, you just mentioned and touched on these aspects as far as how we could not replace Mongolia's current system, and so we had to tie into their existing processes and existing systems, which was seamlessly done. And that's really the power of our middleware, who we are and what we do is we sit in the middle. We don't have to have these people in companies and businesses replace these expensive systems that they're currently using, but we can integrate seamlessly into their existing process, which is super important part of what we do. And so I know I'm a quick interest or a quick glance at the time. For those who are getting value, can you give a thumbs up? Can you give one of those blowhorn things in the thing? Let us know that you're getting it. You're getting value. We want to hear from you. Exactly, we want to hear from you. So again, if you have questions, the chat feature is not working. We apologize. If you do have questions, email me at Travis, Travis, at Morpheus.Network, and we will get to those questions here in a few minutes. Looking at this slide specifically, from the end user perspective, how does this platform streamline processes for exporters and customs officials? I think we've scratched and itched on this a little bit, but if you have a end user perspective for our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I threw in a couple thumbs up there as well. I clicked that icon a few times. I hope that's okay. Yeah, you mentioned end user perspective, and I love that. I've spoken a lot about how our focus really is on the end user. I'll mention a few benefits. One is faster processing. As I'm sure everyone understands, manual paper is slow. It's error prone, inefficient. So first benefit really is faster processing. Supply chain relies on speed. So that was an immediate benefit. The real-time verification, what we wanted to solve with this platform is ensuring that COOs on the platform have never been modified. They're not fraud. So real-time verification, where they can log on to the platform, quickly put in a few bits of information, and see with total data assurance and data confidence that the COOs haven't been modified. That was an immediate benefit for them. I'll mention enhanced transparency. That's very, very important. Suddenly, all stakeholders had that transparency. They could all see COOs. They all had that assurance that the COOs were legit. So that was another benefit, which they spoke a lot about, the immediate transparency we were able to provide. Error reduction, that's a big one. As you can imagine, dealing with papers, typically filled with errors, or even losing papers. Sometimes they're at the bottom of a drawer in someone's desk. So reducing errors was a big one as well. And I'll mention security as well, enhanced security. Dan mentioned that audit trail. As part of this solution, we can log anytime someone accesses a COO, so we can ensure when, we can know who is accessing it and when they're accessing it, and we can also revoke access if ever needed. So that enhanced security with a digital system was something that you simply can't get with a paper-based solution.
Agree. Yes. I think we've in the interest of time, we've hit on all of these, the benefits realized within Mongolia. And so I'm gonna skip down to this slide, engaging potential partners. And Dan, I'm gonna really ask you, because I think the next slide is what you were alluding to prior, some different opportunities that we are looking into. And so Dan, what opportunities exist for other countries and organizations to adopt these solutions? And if you can do that in 60 seconds.
I don't know if I'll do it in 60 seconds. I'll do my best, though. One opportunity right now, one project we're working on right now, which I'm over the moon about and working on it constantly throughout the day, is what we're doing in the EU, the European Union, with EUDR, the deforestation regulation. Similar to Mongolia and that COO solution, bringing all that data together through a digital system. This deforestation regulation, the EU wants to make sure that products are not being sold in the EU that have been involved in deforestation. How are they going to do that? They need companies from around the world, whoever wants to sell their product in Europe, to register with a platform that they're putting out there in order to prove that they have not deforested, have taken down trees in order to grow their crop or in their mine or wherever they're getting their product from. Specifically, these 7 main commodities that they're starting out with. But again, deforestation is not going to be involved in any products in Europe. And how are they going to prove that? Digital system, right? So very excited about this system. We're taking in due diligence statements. We're taking geolocation scans for companies, where they're growing their crops and products. And we're not talking about a couple of companies that have to be registered. Within Europe alone, there's 2.1 million companies and over the next couple of years that have to be registered, let alone the companies all around the world that have to be registered with EUDR. So thinking of it as an exporter from Mongolia, you got to log on to a system with MNCCI. You got to create your COO, and you export your product. Similarly with EUDR, if you want to sell in Europe, you got to log onto a system, got to put in all your data, all your information, geolocation scans, your due diligence statements, proving that you're not involved in deforestation, and then you can sell your product in Europe, right? Definitely worth it. Very simple process that we're developing, and so excited about all the different interactors, all the different supply chain stakeholders from one side of the world all the way into Europe that can be connected to this EUDR system. And do you think we're thinking about it just about deforestation? Amazing. It's definitely amazing. But we can take that same data and create bills of lading, create customs documentation, use that for insurance purposes, use it for so many different aspects of the supply chain up and down. We're over the moon excited about this project, over the moon excited about the prospects, the future of the data we're going to have as a part of this EUDR sandbox we're currently a part of. So super excited about that. And you can imagine how that's going to go. I think I did it in 60 seconds, so I'll stop right now for you, Travis.
Very good. You touched on the solution. Can you go just a layer deeper than that? You see kind of the process on the screen, but can you speak to kind of the high level view of this, because there are some pretty amazing technologies actually being intertwined with this platform. You said it's simple, yes, but it also has some amazing technologies that's going to be kind of mind-blowing for the regulators and the folks that have to use this.
100%. And there's a lot of like complex stuff going on the back end. What we try to do with all our solutions, as we mentioned with the Mongolia COO solution, we want it to be as simple as possible for those Mongolian regulators. Just have a dashboard, see the things happen, right? The people who are logging on, the companies exporting, it should be simple as well. So that's the same as this EUDR solution. Even though it all ties in together, it becomes very, very complex. If you're a farmer, out in Africa and you're growing your product and want to sell it in Europe, you register with EUDR, you scan your QR to prove where you are, you submit a document, and that's basically it. You're compliant. So the regulators themselves, they're going to have their own dashboard seeing this all happen in front of them. You can imagine the different interactors of the supply chain, how they work together to create this amazing data set. And you mentioned as well that having to trust the data is just so important, and leveraging blockchain up and down. I know this solution is built into it as well. One thing that we have to point out that in Europe, a lot of data, as Noah mentioned before, on the blockchain is immutable. You can't get rid of it once it's written on the blockchain. And we have things like GDPR in Europe, which literally is personal data that cannot be written on chain because you can't delete it afterwards. We have to have cool solutions on the back end to make sure that happens as well. So we have off-chain connecting to on-chain as well. We have a hybrid approach where actually take something that's off-chain, create an encrypted hash, and put it on-chain based on that encrypted hash itself. So connecting all those sort of data points together, whether it's something that's private, or it's something that's public, leveraging blockchain at the same time as IoT, as we mentioned as well, and tying that all together, the result is going to be deforestation-free products in Europe, and a very simple process for everyone down the line, more simple than it is now, to trace back where things are, what's happening. And on top of it, we can grow it out, as we mentioned, with many other solutions as well, based on the data we're pulling in from from EUDR.
Amazing. It's amazing stuff. And so, like you said here, this is the full end-to-end spectrum of going from a seed to your essentially your plate or a whole distribution center. So Dan, with this, is there anything, how can enhance trust and engagement between these businesses and the end users? Why is that beneficial?
Yeah, what's amazing about it is that all the different stakeholders, you see the consumers on the retail end, the farmers originally growing their products, and the processing facilities, all of them benefit from this system. There's not a single part of this supply chain that's not better off based on having a digitalized system that connects together. They're all using the same data. So take it from a consumer end, for example. You're going to the grocery store and you want to buy a watermelon. I think it looks like a watermelon in that picture right there. How do you know that's an organic watermelon, right? You can pull up that watermelon, scan a QR code that we put on that product right there, and pull up that audit trail showing it where it was grown, the certificates involved. Obviously, depending on who's scanning it, they're not going to show you, let's say, purchase orders up and down the supply chain, right? You have to be part of that actual company to get that purchase order. But if you're a consumer, you want to see that romance copy, feel trust in the product that you're purchasing, that's what's built in automatically based on the digital system that connects all those data points, all those stakeholders, from the seeds to the farm, the processing facility, distribution facilities, the retail end, and the final consumer that can eat that watermelon and know that they're eating the actual watermelon they think they're eating. So very exciting for the consumer end, for the farmers, for the regulators, everyone involved up and down the supply chain. I will point out one quick thing, Travis, at 1:57, we're running a little short on time. So maybe we should move over to the Q&A shortly. And if you have any more Q&A while we're speaking right now, please shoot it over to Travis at Morpheus.Network.
Yeah, and in light of that, we may go a little bit over. If you're receiving value and okay with us to go over a few minutes, please again give a thumbs up, whatever that blowhorn thing is. You will get the recording, you will get this slide deck afterwards, but we want to continue to provide that value and add value for you. And so we're going to keep going here and go a few minutes over, but we do want to get to the question and answers. We did address the competitive advantages here with blockchain. I think we've discussed that very thoroughly within this whole presentation. We wanted to get to the awards. So before we get to the question and answers, before we start addressing kind of what you're thinking or what you're wanting, no, Morpheus has earned an impressive recognition. Is there any specific award or milestone that stands out in your mind as a reflection of the team's efforts? As you can see the awards on the screen.
Yeah, I'll try and be quick with this one. So I'll mention our newest award because Morpheus.Network has a really aggressive and exciting roadmap. We're releasing a number of new products. One of the product is a supply chain solution specifically for the construction industry. Recently, we were invited to Montreal to the All-In conference. It's a conference heavily focused on AI. And Dan had the opportunity to present our new construction solution. And he did a fantastic job. I believe that video is on YouTube. And we actually won that competition. And we got a nice award from that. I like that one because it really kind of underscores the amazing work we're doing specifically in AI. And it's our newest award as well. So I'll mention that one. And great job, Dan, on that presentation.
Thank you, Noel.
Great job. Okay, here's where we're going to get into the questions. For as a call to you, if what we have spoke about has resonated with you or has gotten your mind thinking, which I believe it has, we want you to email hello@Morpheus.Network. That is your on-ramp to get in touch with us, and someone from our team will begin that conversation with you as we want to grow with you and answer any further questions. But really that first point is email hello@Morpheus.Network. That's where we will begin that conversation. And Noam and Dan, before we open up to the audience, what are some takeaways from each of you? Maybe one or two takeaways that you want to leave with our viewers today.
I don't mind going first. I'll give my general takeaway. This is day to day. Noel mentioned some of his background. I've been in supply chain since the 1990s, before most of you have been born probably. So I've been living and breathing supply chain forever. Laugh at that, but it's true. I'm an old guy. At the same time, I find this stuff so exciting. When we get to talk to companies and figure out exactly what their processes are, and then discuss these amazing digital solutions that could really revamp how their company works from end to end. There's not a single day I don't get up where I'm like so excited to discuss what we're working on, future prospects, the roadmap, everything we're doing is just so exciting because of that $2 trillion opportunity. The environment's being ruined. We're fixing all those amazing problems. So I love it. We're working on something so massive on a global scale. And it gets me jumping out of bed every day at 4 a.m. And then I can't wait to get back at it. So those are my takeaways on a general level.
Amazing. Noam.
Thank you. Yeah. Mine is extremely similar. We deeply believe in what we do. We love the industry. We think the timing is right because we're at a time now where we see these continued supply chain inefficiencies that just seem to be getting worse and worse. But now we have this amazing technology, whether we're talking about AI, blockchain, QR, RFID, all these drones, all these incredible things that we're leveraging to attack these problems. So we love what we do. We love the timing, and we're fortunate that we have amazing products. Our tech is fantastic, has won multiple awards, and I have to mention the team. We're blessed to have such a fantastic team with us at Morpheus.Network. Great team of advisors as well. And we feel very blessed, and we're very excited about 2025.
Yeah, and something I will say, and I say it often, is if I had the Morpheus Network platform, the middleware platform, I am 100% convinced that it would save years off my life, because I was in supply chain, I was running supply chains, and fractured systems, fractured using Excel. When a macro went down, you had to find out who broke it and fix it, and not having visibility into my trucks, not having visibility into something went wrong. All of this stuff, which I was on call 24/7. So getting called out of my house or called out of an event with my kids, this would have been solved because I would have had notification. I would have been proactive instead of reactive. I would have been able to see these things happen. So that's really the power of Morpheus that I really, I love to champion, because I believe in it 100%, and our customers do too. All right, we are going to transition over to the questions. This first question is for Noam. I think it's on the adoption challenges. What challenges have you faced in getting stakeholders, especially in developing countries, to adopt blockchain-based supply chain solutions?
Yeah, great question. One challenge I'll mention is speed. Morpheus.Network, we're quite a agile company. We like to move fast. However, when we deal with the real world, whether it's companies overseas or governmental organizations or large enterprises, they often don't move as quickly as we would hope. So very often we need to be very, very patient with them. And we just do what we can to support them as best as possible. And so I'll mention that, that's a big challenge. The other challenge, in terms of the technology, like I said, we never lead with the technology. If we go in talking about the immutability and all the benefits of blockchain, sometimes we lose the opportunity. We want to really focus on the value and the benefits.
Very good. All right, the second one, I think, is around issues management, which we didn't really touch on too much in this webinar. However, Dan, I'll throw this to you. Does your platform have an AI compliant or complaint management system that handles customer feedback and complaints?
That's a great question, and I hate to give too much information about our future product releases as well. We actually have a specific brand new product, which I don't think we released the name of it yet, so I don't even want to mention it right now yet, so it like hits home pretty well. But yes, we have an amazing solution that could be part of any sort of company's supply chain, or really any part of their operation processes as well, which we can fit in as almost like a module for complaints and recalls even, all built into it as well. So Travis, I'm glad you mentioned that, and that question's perfect, because you think of a company and when they hear what we talk about, they might be like, oh, I don't do certificate of origin, so this is not for me. I don't want anybody to be thinking of our solution as we do a certificate of origin based thing. No. I think another question is also with other documentation, other solutions we can layer in as well. 100%. We've built amazing solutions for ocean BLs as well with Trade Trust out of Singapore. We've done a bunch of digitalized bills of lading and performance invoices with Customs Direct. That's for customs clearance into the United States as well, and vice versa coming back into Canada as well. So digitalizing these documents, leveraging the blockchain, IPFS, and other solutions in order to take advantage of the digital data, 100%. I will say that Morpheus itself, you have to think of us as a business as well. We're not just building stuff for fun, right? So we got to listen to our clients. We got to listen to our potentials that are saying, oh, I need certificate of origin system built for MNCCI. We didn't just walk up to Mongolia and say, hey guys, we got a COO system, let's build this for you. No, they led us down that path, of course. Same thing when it comes to CFIA, food inspection certificates. Same thing with EUDR. It's about timing. It's about the European Union being ready to implement a digitalized system for deforestation regulation. It's not us just announcing we got a deforestation regulation solution, then Europe follows us. It won't work like that. That's for all our clients, all our enterprise clients. They come to us with a problem that we can solve, and our platform is so flexible. We're agnostic to blockchain, agnostic to cloud systems, agnostic to IoT, agnostic to anything. Whatever they're currently using, we can fit it in almost like a module that's built into their platform, like a puzzle piece that they were missing, or to connect the rest of the puzzles together. So excited for all those different solutions, including complaint management that was brought up as well. And I promise Q1 2025, we'll have a live demo for everybody to see of our, not going to say the name of it, but our complaint management processing solution.
Yeah, I would like to call it disruption management, not complaint management, because it's just a disruption. Things can be solved, things can be fixed, processes can be put in place. And this is one of the things, the modules or the tools that, or the what we have built that addresses a lot of those headaches that I know a lot of supply chain managers face. They're on the phone calls, they're on a potential chat, but the customer may not have the same chat as you, so you're emailing, and all that takes time, and we're really saving you time with this solution. So really looking forward to that.
The solution name has been publicized already. It's the website. So I will say it right now, in case you didn't know, resolve.supply. Please check it out. I believe the website should be online as well. So enjoy.
There we go. Breaking news. You heard it first.
Unless it was broken by somebody else, but all good. I broke it again.
All right. Gnome, this comes up quite a bit as well. Security, around security. And with your background being a security, just a expert, I would say, a lot of folks have concerns around security. And so with blockchain technology, how do you address concerns around data security and ensuring sensitive information is protected?
Yeah, great question, of course. And especially in supply chain, so much data is considered sensitive. Even who your partners are can be considered sensitive data, or your trade routes, or your pricing. Everything may be considered sensitive. So for solutions, we put a lot of focus on the security of that data. In terms of blockchain specifically, I'll speak about two things. One is with blockchain, you can either utilize a public blockchain or a private permissioned blockchain, and we've utilized both heavily in some of our projects. The benefit of a public is you get that transparency, and the benefit of a public permission is that you can really control who has access to that. So that's really one of the first key considerations. Should we use a public blockchain such as Ethereum or Polygon, or something private permissioned? The other thing, and this is a big conversation, is what data should you store on chain, and what data should you store off chain? There's security considerations there. There's also cost considerations. Typically, the more data you store on chain, the higher the costs and transaction fees. But in the example of MNCCI, we kept, all their sensitive addresses and names and all that information off chain. But on chain, we only stored encrypted data that allowed importers and exporters and MNCCI to still verify that the COOs was valid, that it's immutable, that it hasn't been edited, but yet we did not store anything confidential on chain. It's a big discussion. It's something we put a lot of focus on. The last thing I'll mention about security, is a big part of security is backups, right? And that's one of the great benefits of blockchain as well. Blockchains are available 24/7. They're not going to be hacked and taken down. They're available 24/7. And you can also have a high confidence of assurance that data will always be available when you need it. So I'll mention that as well.
Very good. Thank you. And I think these are the last two questions that came in. I think we've already addressed them within the conversation, but the question is, was Morpheus solution built on a legacy blockchain network or on a new fit-to-purpose platform solution? I think, Noam, you've addressed that with Polygon. We use Polygon, but again, we're blockchain agnostic. So we did have a switcher built into the platform with that LAC chain for they were interested in that type of specific blockchain. So we built that in the back office or the background of it. So anytime they wanted to switch, they were free to do so. Could Morpheus shed some light into the data requirements, since these COOs can typically consume large amounts of data, especially if there's a need to ETL the PDF files, and hence requiring large storage needs with edge processing capabilities? No, I think you've addressed that, but you want to hit that real quick?
Yeah. And in terms of that switcher that Travis mentioned, what that was is it allowed MNCCI to switch over to a alternative blockchain literally by hitting a toggle. So that was a great feature. And then in terms of data requirements, yeah, we spoke a bit about that. The more data you store on chain, typically speaking, it does increase the costs. One thing we do utilize for large amount of data is IPFS, which we spoke about as well. It's a great low-cost solution to store entire documents or PDFs as well.
Yeah, and it's important to know that we're not hedged into one thing. We are very, very fluent and fluid on how we can move and grow with the growing market, growing global impacts. So we don't want to hedge ourselves in. That's the beauty of being a middleware. Who we are is being agnostic to the blockchain and these other solutions. We simply plug into all of them. All right, the last one is COO is an important document, but have you considered incorporating other documents which are arguably more important, such as bill of ladings, that can serve a legal document between shippers and receivers? Dan, I'll let you take that real quick.
Yeah, I brushed on that already a bit with that Ocean BL we did with Trade Trust. And yeah, most definitely, that makes complete sense. As you mentioned, it's a contract between shippers, receivers. You want something that's trusted as well. And if it's on chain, you can trust it's the original document. It serves as your contract as well. It makes complete sense to do that. And we have done that. We'll continue to do that. What I wanted to mention, connected to that as well in a sense, is all the data that connects together, and our positioning as middleware, allowing data to flow through our system, being pushed out as necessary as well. We talked about our excitement for the future and how I day-to-day enjoy what we do. I also envision ourselves as this middleware connecting to IT systems all around the entire planet, connecting companies to each other. Something inventory systems, demand management planning, supply and demand is all connected based on what's in the inventories currently and what's required by companies at any point in the entire world. So we've seen horrible occurrences that have happened, like let's say like COVID, when ports were shut down, and also people were scared they're gonna run out of products, so they bought all the peanut butter off the shelf. And suddenly they were ordering a container load of peanut butter, when it was only for that one moment, that one idiot that bought all the peanut butter, and suddenly everyone's stuck with all this peanut butter. And we have a whole backup of ships and ships of peanut butter because of a misconception about how peanut butter demand and supply is required. So we had no connection between data in that sense. Suez Canal blockage as well. Once again, things like that, that's, I won't say an act of God, but similar to an act of God where something gets caught up, you don't know that's going to happen. Suddenly the entire Suez Canal is blocked. What do? If we have all these systems connected to each other, we're using AI all the way across the board. Think of it as like water flowing. You're not just going to stop water in one spot. It's continue flowing somewhere else. We're going to have AI connecting all these different systems together. If you block the Suez Canal, if we have pirates in the Red Sea, we have these things going on, guess what? AI is going to flow around all those different congestion points and increase those other points that are not congested at the time. So I'm excited about the entire world being connected with all this data that's out there currently. We're going to be that middleware pulling in all that data, allowing those connections to happen, taking advantage of AI algorithms, taking advantage of IT systems actually speaking to each other, dynamic data. And to me, that just sounds unbelievable that you just can't stop companies if they're flowing like water with their supply chain.
Yep. An important piece of there is that interoperability aspect. because we sit so we can integrate seamlessly with any existing system, ERP, logistics systems, where it's pulling those BOLs, it's pulling those proof for deliveries, it's pulling those documents that are really essential to your supply chain automatically. And so we can do that. So you're not having to get on the phone call. You can simply set up notifications, and they can do that very, very quickly and pop up notifications. So the interoperability is a big aspect of this. All right, we have come to 17 minutes after. We appreciate the folks that have weathered the storm of being on here at the end. Again, if this has really stirred some thoughts and emotion within you, please email hello@Morpheus.Network, and our team is standing by ready to build that relationship with you and hear what you have to say and how we can partner with you. Dan and Noam, I will leave lasting comments to you.
I don't mind going first. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Honestly, we can go on forever and ever to how much we're enjoying what we're doing, all the different projects we have on the go. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about us, a little bit about Morpheus, a little bit our solutions and how we're solving that $2 trillion problem that's actually ruining the environment at the same time. Let's fix the world, fix supply chain, fix the world. And Noam, I'll give you the last word, my friend.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, first, thank you, Travis, for moderating. Great job. Dan, great job as always. Quick last word. Yeah, I think, it's the end of the year now. We've had a great long year, but I think we're all very, very excited for 2025. So I wish you all a fantastic end of year. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and happy New Year.
Thank you, everybody. I echo both of their comments. Again, our email, Morpheus.Network. Check us out. Email hello@Morpheus.Network with questions. You can email me, Travis@Morpheus.Network, with any questions. But thank you all, and look for your email. This will be sent out to you following this call.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.